proposed blocking any potential Hillary Clinton nominees indefinitely if she became president for years, saying there was a long historical precedent for a court with fewer than 9 justices. Of course, Lyin' Ted only said that when he thought the guy who gave him that nickname was going to lose. But wait, there's more. The senator, who apparently every other member of Congress hates, according to John Boehner, also led the charge to put Amy Coney Barrett on the court in an election year, literally weeks before the election, despite arguing the actual opposite in 2016. He also argued it was necessary to confirm her to resolve any cases involving the election. With me now are Juanita Tolliver, Democratic strategist and MSNBC political analyst, and Tiffany Cross, host of MSNBC's The Cross Connection. Juanita, first to you, what do you think of Ted Cruz's reasoning? I put that in scare quotes.
I mean, Joy, is what my middle school teachers would call a bold-faced lie. He's out here lying through his teeth, trying to revise the reality that the GOP invented the playbook for packing the courts. And now they're trying to backtrack on that. And I think everybody sees through that for what it is, because he got trolled online for it, and that's not going to stop. What else is out here right now, though, is the fact that Democrats are being called upon to match the same energy that the GOP had back in 2016, back in 2020, when they were limiting the court, obstructing nominees, and then rushing nominees. And so I think we're going to see more progressives push for Democrats to match that energy, to expand the courts, especially with the decisions that they're making. We know these decisions will have generations-long impact, and I think seeing the decision today about allowing minors to be subjected to life imprisonment without parole, one could argue that decision only came down because Coney Barrett and because Kavanaugh are in the court. And so I think we're going to see pressure mount for Democrats to respond to that.
And how ironic that Kavanaugh, who wanted people to not judge what he was doing in high school, which allegedly was involving sexually harassing and maybe worse, a fellow student. You know, Tiffany, speaking of senators who are terrible, Josh Hawley decided that the anti-Asian hate crimes bill was no bueno. Your thoughts? But well, he was the only one.
Yeah, exactly. It's sad that he was the sole no vote on this anti-hate bill. And let me just say, Joy, we're going to be talking to Senator Mazie Hirono tomorrow on the Cross Connection. So I'm really excited to hear her thoughts. But, you know, it's really interesting that this violent insurrectionist sympathizer does not think that this bill rises to the occasion to protect the AAPI community from the rise in hate crimes that we've seen. I just want to really quickly say, though, about the Supreme Court, it's important to remember that the Mexican vacation spot expert Ted Cruz only weighed in on this because Senator Ed Markey and Congressman Gerald Nadler introduced a bill to expand the courts. And that's really important, Joy, as you know, because think about how many cases could be landing in the Supreme Court. We've got voting rights, we've got policing issues, the ability for presidents to be able to block people on Twitter. So all of these things matter happening on Capitol Hill right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move along to LeBron James, who he got Donald Trump to come out of hiding and attack him, trying to say that LeBron James is being racist and divisive, which is funny coming from the man that LeBron famously called "you bum," because he tweeted about people being killed by police. He, like every other human being, particularly African-Americans in the country, feel like maybe that shouldn't be done. What do you make of the attempts to try to come for LeBron, who has actually become heroic in terms of voting rights, et cetera? Juanita, your thoughts?
Who cares what Trump has to say? He is a non-factor in all of this. And honestly, what LeBron was reflecting was the deep pain, the deep frustration, the deep anger that a lot of people are experiencing right now, especially when Black people are being killed by police every day. So continue to dismiss Trump as the bum that he is, because that's all that's happening. It's just noise that doesn't need any attention.
Speaking of bums, Matt Gaetz begging for money. He says he wants to run some ads to try to help himself. There's an interesting piece in ProPublica that talks about the fact that all of these far-right figures, like Matt Gaetz, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, et cetera, Josh Hawley, they all sort of go out and sort of make it seem like every time there's a controversy, they're raising tons of money. But it's not really clear that that's happening. These organizations that are gleaning money from, sometimes in small donations from, Republican donors, a lot of the time they're keeping most of the money, and the fundraising isn't really real. It's kind of smoke and mirrors. Do you think that we in the media, you wrote a great book, Say It Louder, Tiffany Cross, about the media. Do we need to maybe take a step back before touting the fact that everything crazy they do is causing major fundraising? Because sometimes it's really not true.
Yeah, I completely agree, Joy. I mean, this is something where we have a responsibility to peel away the headline and get to the substance of what's happening. And let me just say about this whole Matt Gaetz thing. Number one, every time I get the opportunity to remind people of how you dragged him all across the AM, Joy said way back in the day over his stance on the NRA, people should Google it. It's worth a watch. But also, we have to remember that he is being accused of sex trafficking a 17-year-old girl. And so when you're asking for people to contribute to your defense for such a heinous crime, it makes you wonder what kind of weird, creepy white guy party is this where they defend accused pedophiles like Roy Moore, where they defend accused wife beaters like some of the speechwriters from the Trump administration, and racists like Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's a weird thing happening in the GOP, and honestly, it's been the only Republican party I've known. I think it's just more public now.
Well, and let's not forget Trump himself, who still has a case coming at him for alleged sexual assault inside of a department store. Let's talk about Tucker Carlson. I want both of you to get the chance to weigh in on this, because the thing that's happened that the Republican Party has done that I think is sort of helpful is just, let's just be open. You have Tucker Carlson, who now has embraced replacement theory. He didn't literally say, Jews will not replace us, which is what the replacement theory folks said in Charlottesville. But he did say, you're trying to replace us. He said that very openly on his show. Question to both of you. Ignore it? Deal with it? How do we deal with the fact that this is becoming open? Because Ron Johnson, who is an elected official, also reflected that same idea. Juanita,
I think the first response, Joy, is call it out, have advocates call it out, and put as much pressure as possible on Fox News to get someone like him off of the air for spreading these lies and disgusting conspiracy theories. And he has no place in media. He should not have a megaphone to spread these things. And so I think it's important to call it out and be on the record calling it out and confront it directly.
Tiffany?
Yeah, so I agree with my sister Juanita Tolliver, definitely. But I will say, all three of us on this screen know what it's like when something happens in our community and then all the talking points are, where are their fathers? And the community has to rally around and teach these kids how to act. Guess what, MAGA? That's your problem. You call out these half-witted idiots who want to follow around this guy who lacks an intellect and makes up for it in racism. You all call out his behavior. You all are the ones tuning in. I don't know how to un-racist a racist. That's a problem for somebody else, and I just really have no interest in engaging those people. I don't have this call to make people see the light. I'm not trying to educate the uninformed and the willfully ignorant. I'm trying to inform and inspire the uninspired. So I think that's their problem, and I could just care less about that trash channel, that trash man, or that trash party.
Amen. Listen, they said we are not going to raise people who've already been raised by somebody. That somebody raised them.